Something seems wrong with A.
Why would you ask that?
Well, usually you'd pull out your sword and swish! Vaporize them all in one go, no?
You are unduly concerned. I'm simply conserving my energy. Although I have some understanding of the situation already, it could take an unexpected turn at any time. I must be prepared for anything. If there are more formidable monsters lying in wait in this area, I must make sure I have the strength to face them.
Ah, makes sense! Spoken like a seasoned shogun. The roots seem pretty badly damaged this time. We definitely need to tell the Yashiro Commission about this. Hey, the same light is leaking out again!
Furuyama? Is that you?
Almighty Shogun, what brings you back so soon? I thought you were off fighting a battle in a distant land.
Fighting a battle in a distant land? Sounds like this guy's talking about 500 years ago, too.
Allow me to introduce Furuyama. He is a tea master and a member of my retinue. Though blind, Furuyama is unparalleled in his ability to appraise tea. He brews some of the very finest tea in all of Inazuma.
Your Excellency, you shower me with praise undeserved. I have simply had the good fortune to be in Your Excellency's presence long enough to become acquainted with all the skills that are required of me. It sounds like the Almighty Shogun has brought a guest. I'm afraid I'm unable to serve you any respectable refreshments on account of the current situation. But please, sit and rest. After all, it's quite a mess out there.
What should we do? Oh, yeah. Sheesh. There's monsters everywhere out there. It's pitch black and loads of people have been injured.
I see. So, they have fought their way this far already. Most of the residents in this neighborhood have already escaped. They wanted to take me with them, but it seemed rather pointless to me. So, I decided to stay. And now the Almighty Shogun is here, I have even less reason to run away. Imagine if this was something that even the Almighty Shogun was powerless to resolve. Where could I possibly run to then? People flee out of a desire to live on, and the desire to live on stems from a feeling of having unfinished business in life. But me, I have no such thoughts, and I have no regrets. The Almighty Shogun often speaks to me about her dreams over tea. Just listening to her stories, I've been blind for many years, but her vivid descriptions took me on a splendid journey to all the most beautiful places in Inazuma. Over time, I've come to understand her mindset. Quite the romantic at heart, a true dreamer. One thing she always says is, good things don't last forever. Everything changes, fades, disappears completely over the passage of time. And so, people must make the most of the life they have, seize the chance to enjoy it while it lasts, and have no regrets in the end. So you see, as bleak as things may be now, I have experienced countless wonderful things in life, and have no reason not to be satisfied.
Perhaps you are right.
It won't be long now before I have to say goodbye to the Almighty Shogun for the last time. What a pity. I'll never get to see what Inazuma looks like after the Almighty Shogun rebuilds it anew. But I suppose it doesn't matter. Everyone says that Inazuma has turned dark now. But to me, it went dark a long time ago. Once this catastrophe is over, life is sure to spring forth anew. But even if I survived until then, I'd probably be a hopelessly befuddled old so-and-so by then. So, never mind, eh? Oh, goodness me. Speaking of befuddled, look at me rambling away to my heart's content and forgetting to serve the tea. The almighty Shogun comes to visit and I don't have the tea ready. A truly egregious loss of decorum. One moment, I'll just... Where in the world is the tea set? I hope the others didn't smash it to smithereens in their hasty departure.
Can't see a tea set anywhere around here.
Really? But it's always been right by my side. Goodness gracious, what a fool I'm making of myself. I couldn't possibly have my guests fetch it themselves. That would be most discourteous indeed.
Don't worry about it. Take a rest. We'll be back right away.
Almighty Shogun, you're not going too, are you? No, no, no. Your humble servant implores you, not with the war raging outside.
This place is... complicated. It's quite unlike the tea house in your memories. Leave it to us.
But... well, okay. I never thought I'd see the day that I need the almighty Shogun to personally collect my tea set for me. I can't decide whether it's a final regret or a final stroke of good fortune.
Well, it's not often we have the chance to chat. I'm sure you must have a lot of questions.
Right. Paimon wanted to ask that too. The almighty Shogun that he described didn't sound anything like you at all.
I seldom had the time to drink tea. Any free time I had was spent practicing martial arts. So, in the vast majority of cases, the one he made tea for was the former Electro Archon, who was also my sister, Raiden Makoto. He may well have had an inkling about there being two Raiden Shoguns, but he always acted as if he was completely unaware of it. The philosophy of life that he shared with us just now, that was Makoto's view on reality. She always saw things that way.
You and Makoto had pretty different views, huh?
Indeed we did. It was the biggest difference between us. In her eyes, the most precious things in this world were dreams. The yearning for a better future held by living beings. They are similar, but not identical. When you came charging into the plane of Euthymia, I saw human aspirations light up the sky far above in the form of countless stars. This somewhat shook me. Now, it seems like she was right, while I took the wayward path.
Wow. There sure was a lot going on beneath the surface.
Makoto saw a bigger picture than I did. In her view, a dream is more imaginary, more abstract than an ambition. An ambition is a yearning for something material, or a concrete outcome. It is finite in nature, and will be replaced by a new ambition in due course. Makoto was more concerned with the force that drives humans to constantly generate new ambitions in the first place. It is something innate, rooted in instinct. In other words, it is something eternal.
That's, quite a lot to take in.
To put it simply, Makoto wasn't concerned about outcomes. I didn't understand at the time. How can we say that we are maintaining eternity when things are constantly moving forward and evolving? I suppose what it comes down to is the definition of eternity she set out with. Yes, it does. I always thought that she must have grasped some elusive, arcane wisdom to arrive at the conclusions she did. But in the last analysis, Makoto's philosophy was, on the surface at least, an elegantly simple one. Notwithstanding that it was also the more prudent choice, based on a more mature, far-sighted outlook.
Do you feel you're starting to understand her better now?
You have already witnessed my previous views on eternity. But now, I no longer cling to what was lost. I suppose that means our differences have been reconciled.
Almighty Shogun, I found a tea set. This one in particular should be fit for your Excellency's use.
It's quite beautiful. Thank you.
You are too kind. A humble servant such as I does not deserve the gratitude of the Almighty Shogun.
It's all good, sir. She's actually pretty chill.
Let us return. We ought not keep Furuyama waiting too long.
Hey, where'd he go? He wouldn't have gone looking for a tea set himself, would he?
Or perhaps the ley lines did not have the power to sustain him for very long, as was the case with the memory we saw earlier.
So we won't get to drink his tea? We didn't even have a chance to say goodbye.
The information held in the ley lines is complex and disorderly. The fact that we were able to meet him to begin with was a miracle of fate. Well, this chance won't come often, and we do have a tea set. Perhaps I should try my hand at making us a pot of tea. I've watched Furuyama brew tea on many occasions. I doubt I should have any major problems doing it myself. The tea is ready. Please give it a try. So many thoughts were racing through my head as I was brewing it. I'm not sure how to explain it. You're right. But the things we've seen today have brought back many memories for me. I've been reminded of many people, too. Kitsune Saigu, Makoto, and all the other friends who I watched pass even further back. Back at the Yashiro Commission, I kept the conversation reasonably light-hearted. But now, I'd like to broach a heavier topic, if I may. The events of 500 years ago not only robbed me of my friend, Kitsune Saigu, they also took Makoto away from me, for good.
She died in that disaster too?
Yes. She went to Conria alone, without telling me. Unlike me, Makoto was no martial artist. Whenever similar crises had arisen in the past, I was always the one to face them in her stead. But this time, the circumstances were so grave that Makoto had no choice but to leave me behind. Or perhaps it was more that she went ahead of me, put herself in front of me, so that I would remain hidden. In any case, by the time I realized what was happening, yes, it was too late. I arrived only in time to hear her dying breath. She had already lapsed into unconsciousness by that point, So all I could do was enter into her mind. As far as you're concerned, it would be somewhere similar to the plane of Euthymia. It was there that we bid each other a final farewell. I cried bitterly. Even in those final moments, I couldn't understand her actions. Why did she go to Conria first, and not I? Why did she keep me in the dark about it? Was it to shield me? It was there and then that I resolved to pursue eternity. As a testament to that decision, I saved her realm of consciousness just before it collapsed completely, and brought it back to Inazuma.
That's quite a story.
When I returned to Inazuma, I was shocked to find that a great sakura tree had appeared on Mount Yogo. The tree that you know as the sacred sakura. That's exactly what everyone back then told me as well. That it had existed since time immemorial. They were so matter-of-fact about it, and couldn't at all understand what I was so surprised about. No one questioned it, and yet its presence contrasted so starkly with the area as I remembered it. It seemed as if I was the only one to have noticed it appear suddenly out of thin air. In the end, I simply had to accept that it was a miraculous effect of Makoto's consciousness. With the help of the sacred Sakura's power, I was finally able to overcome the monsters and quell the disaster in Inazuma.
This is all really hard to understand. Kinda beyond Paimon's level.
Yes. She had such a great love for this land, and for its people. In this respect, I still do not compare to her. I once told myself that I would never speak of these events again. Facing the fact that she is gone is unbearably painful. But even the tea that is most bitter to the tongue, once swallowed, leaves some sweetness in the throat. And it's time I came to terms with it all.
Oh, while we're on the topic, since you experienced that battle in person...
Sister? I had heard that you were looking for your family. You mean to say that she was somehow involved in the Conria disaster?
Based on what we've learned so far, it seems so, yeah.
I'm sorry. I wasn't there for the whole thing. By the time I arrived, the worst of the fighting was already over. And also, my mind was consumed entirely with the plight of Inazuma, and the fate of those closest to me. So, I am afraid I can't help you.
Oh, well, that's a shame. But it can't be helped, I guess. Boy, both of you have experienced great tragedy.
With this last cup of tea, let us honor the Tea Master's memory. Thank you, Destiny, for giving us the chance to meet again.
They're gone.
It was both. The people's sacrifice has always caused me immense pain. But in dwelling on the tragedy, I overlooked their splendor. The grief blinded me to how brightly they shone in their final moments. The result being that in the centuries since their sacrifice, I have dishonored their will. You could take the view that whatever I say to them is meaningless, because they are but disembodied memories held in the ley lines. But even so, they are due a resolution. I owe it to them, and to all the people who have placed their faith in me to date.
Well, Paimon thinks that even if it's a few hundred years later, you're doing right by them now, and that's what counts.
Thank you for your comforting words. But this is my basic duty as Inazuma's Archon, and I have neglected it for far too long. I used to think just like that samurai, that I was first and foremost a warrior, and my only duty was to face whatever challenge came my way. But what Inazuma needs more than a warrior is someone like Makoto. Even though I am utterly unlike Makoto, and can never become the person she was, I still need to do the things that she would have done. Yes, they are. They are strong and resilient, and have much to be proud of. As the Raiden Shogun they revere, I should not be the one to hold them back.
Well said. Sounds to Paimon like you figured things out.
Change will come to Inazuma, and with it, new possibilities. This will take time, but eventually, the future will bring healing to the scars of the past. No matter how long it takes, I am committed to bringing this to fruition. This is my promise. Now that we've dealt with the Rift Hounds, this matter is halfway resolved. It does not appear that the threat will escalate for the time being. I will leave the Tenryo and Yashiro commissions to handle the follow-up work, such as investigating the origins of this incident and tending to the root system.
Alrighty then, let's move on.
This is the end. You have won. I believed you were incapable of transcending the past. But it seems my belief was baseless, and I underestimated your spirit. But a will that cannot be eroded has no way to embrace the future. You need not worry about the future, and you aren't alone. I know your power more than anyone else. Had I relied upon my strength alone, I would have lost this duel for sure. Yet, my reason for fighting redefined my martial prowess and redrew my limits. I now carry the gaze of the myriad of expectant eyes that look to the light in the heavens. And whenever I think of this, I feel something stirring within Muso Ishin. The blade that I inherited from Makoto seems to be trying to guide me, to encourage me. I noticed it also. Just now in the heat of battle, it seemed to unleash a new and unfamiliar power. This power is beyond the limits of my understanding. This blade belonged to Makoto. Perhaps it can only respond to me with its full power when I truly understand and believe in her. When I clasped Muso Ishin in my hands, I had the feeling that she was by my side once again. It was at once a familiar feeling and a strange one. Makoto barely wielded a blade in her life, and yet her blade brings me closer to her. You have my approval. Your present will is not the product of erosion. I shall no longer stop you from attempting to modify the rules. From this day forth, this body will remain your assistant. I won't design any more rules that can never be changed. You used to represent my past, but from today onward, you are me. Makoto never saw me as a fearless weapon. Likewise, I should not regard you as a mere tool. You truly have changed. I suppose this is what humans call growth. I understand. I shall become your shadow, just as you were once Makoto's shadow. The duties I perform will not change. But as a warrior, I look forward to the chance to fight like this again in the future. Do you say this because you have not yet reconciled yourself with your defeat? It was simply a new experience for me. One that is worth reliving.
Have you finished fighting then?
Hello, A. And greetings, those who have come to bear witness. I am Raiden Makoto, the previous Electro Archon, who failed in my duties and left you all to pick up the pieces. Makoto? I'm so happy. You've come so far. I always knew you would make it here in the end. I left a faint fragment of my will in Muso Ishin, so that in the moment that you unleashed its full power, I too would be released. A convoluted way to reach you, but... well, you held such deeply entrenched views at the time that you wouldn't have listened to a word I said. There was no time to wait for you to have a change of heart. Please forgive me. All I could do was find some way to wait until you came to me. But... you never mentioned this to me. Everything happened so suddenly. I'm sorry. I've always felt terrible for having to entrust Inazuma to you all of a sudden. I should have been the one to impart these ideas to you, a little at a time, to dissuade you from your pursuit of stillness. Did you know what was about to happen in Conria? I had some sense of it. That place was not somewhere that any Archon could afford to ignore. In my present form, I can no longer perceive time. I don't know how long we have been separated before this reunion, and I don't know what Inazuma has experienced in the meantime. But I know that this must have been an extremely arduous journey for you. And I'm sure you must have wanted to shed tears many times along the way. Don't look down on me. See? You admit it. It was with this possibility in mind that I left a parting gift for you. Something to soothe Inazuma's pain. Here, take it, before my last shred of consciousness fades away. But it is you who must take the most important step.
The light turned into a seed?
The miracle tree that blesses the people, in this moment new to the world and yet to be known. When to plant it, where it shall bloom. She who brings it into being must let her heart and dreams decide. Grant it life, eh? Is it really? Eternity extends time into infinity. Dreams illuminate each moment within. When both shine in unison, the sacred Sakura blooms from the darkness, finally free from the clutches of the heavenly principles. Now the nightmare has dissipated, and reality is made whole. The vision we both yearn for is still further ahead. My only regret is that I cannot witness Inazuma's future, nor can I walk this journey with you. Do you know, A? I am so happy right now, because my final wish has now come true. Your polearm once protected me from countless calamities. For this, I've always felt indebted to you. Though I could never repay you in full, this sacred Sakura will buy you some time until you are ready to awaken and embrace the new. What do you think? Did it do the trick? This time, it really is goodbye, eh? Goodbye, Makoto.
So the A of the present planted the sacred Sakura in the realm of consciousness, and it took root in the Inazuma of the past. No matter what you make of it, it's quite incredible.
All of this is thanks to Makoto's power. Her understanding of eternity is much more profound than mine. Eternity is a concept intimately connected with time. When you begin to touch on eternity, the concept of time becomes murky.
A place where time is meaningless and cannot be understood with ordinary logic. So that was the turbulence I was sensing. Perhaps that is the reason why you were able to return precisely to this point in time without any problems. And yet, that sense of disorderliness has now completely disappeared.
I don't fully understand yet. But my intuition tells me that the reason for everything, it's that seed.
Well, I'm not convinced that it was Makoto's power alone.
I know what you mean. Perhaps Makoto got a higher power involved in all of this. But whatever the explanation, her solution is what saved us all. Without the sacred Sakura, Inazuma would likely have been completely swallowed up centuries ago by that disaster and the filth.
I know you've always perceived there was something special about the sacred Sakura, but to me, it has always been there. You've tried in the past to prove to me that there's a connection between the sacred Sakura and Makoto's consciousness, but unfortunately, you never did persuade me, did you?
No. But I understand why now. It was because the sacred Sakura hadn't even been planted then.
But don't you think that tree looked a lot different than how it does now?
The sacred Sakura is within my purview at the shrine, so obviously I get to prune it exactly how I like it.
Ugh. Now we see who's pulling the strings.
I'm joking. That tree has been through a lot since it first sprouted. We have the loving care of Kitsune over the ages to thank for how it appears today. And obviously I played my part too. It's fair to say that very little time passed between the moment you came out of that realm and the moment you re-entered it. But in that same time, centuries of battling took place on the inside, did it not? Traveler, if I'm guessing correctly, you were repeating your wishes to yourself in your mind, weren't you? At that time, I could sense A's whereabouts, but I also sensed anomalies in the flow of time within that space. Suffice to say, time added a whole new dimension to our search. Simply establishing a location was not sufficient. Fortunately, your will was strong enough that the turbulence carried you to the moment in time most likely to be the intersection of all that you were wishing for. The flow of turbulence may well have been influenced by Makoto, but it took everyone's efforts combined to ultimately help A. So this time, it looks like thanks are due to you.
Does that mean it wasn't by chance that we ended up at the final duel? We were always meant to be there to witness what was going to happen?
I thought that the flow of time was the same on the inside and the outside. So it was a great shock to me when the traveler reappeared. My first thought was, has a great disaster befallen Inazuma? But it turned out you had come to rescue me. You came for my sake, to help me reach the best possible outcome. You too have my thanks. You have done much for me, and I will never forget it.
A, how are you feeling now?
My body has fully recovered, and the Shogun's will no longer fights against me.
Always thrilled to hear you're in good health. But I was really asking about your emotions. Have you managed to calm down? After all, you saw Makoto in there, didn't you?
I only heard her voice. I wouldn't say I saw her. I'll be fine. It brought a few things back, of course, but I've made my decision to move forward. I have to say, this has reminded me once again just how brilliant Makoto was. She predicted all the ways in which Inazuma's future could unfold, all the way back then. She even factored my immaturity into her plan. It's all thanks to her that Inazuma lived to see this day. I just planted a seed.
Yeah, it was thanks to everything you did that you got to see her again. That's amazing!
Thank you.
Today, at long last, you and Inazuma finally emerge from the shadows cast by the events of centuries past. Makoto and you are Inazuma's past and future, and both are indispensable.
It's rare to hear such comforting words from you. I graciously accept them.
Oh, come on. You only think it's rare because you never used to listen to a word I say.
Makoto said the exact same thing!
Great minds think alike, hmm? I wonder, does that qualify me to, maybe, take the position of Shogun for a couple of days? Actually, no. Forget that. Far more trouble than it's worth.
We will have to end the frivolities there. There is much work to be done. The Shogun and I will closely review the Inazuma of today to find out where things currently stand. Then, we will give careful consideration to the future. After that, I will abolish the Sakoku decree.
Really? That's huge news!
I am no longer pursuing an eternity defined by stasis. In which case, there is no further need to keep the nation under lock and key. I don't doubt that many challenges lie ahead for Inazuma. I'm looking forward to it.